We've still got, as Andy alluded to, one more race left to go on the timetable. We've had one half of the Caterham Academy. Now it's time for the second half. The white group have concluded their race. Now it's time for the green group to take their turn and to head out for their 20-minute race, the final 20 minutes of action here at Croft this weekend. It's been quite an entertaining meeting from start to finish, not just from Caterham, but of course from Fun Cup and the City Car Cup. So just first of all, thank you to all of them for providing some great action on track. And we are getting set to get things underway. The cars now making their way out of the assembly area and on their way to round to the grid. Well, this is their formation lap out of the pits, out of the assembly area and onto the grid as well. So, Caterham Academy makes it out. We'll quickly run you through the grid before just reminding you of the nuances of the Caterham Academy Championship. So, as they make their way round to begin their third to last race of the season before the double header at Snetterton in a few weeks' time. It will be on the green group, Freddie Chiddix, who will start on pole position. He will start alongside Jeff Newman, the two main rivals in the championship, on the front row together. Alongside him, on the second row of the group, we've then got Mark Jones in car number 2 and James Cook in car 15. Then it's Chris Fraser in car 10. And Theo Theato, I've noticed in the last couple of meetings, really has found a turn of pace in the last couple of meetings he's been out, particularly Brands Hatch. And then we've seen him here at Croft, has found a bit of a just something in the car setup, something with himself in terms of his ability that's seen him shoot up the grid. He was sort of mid-pack for most of the first couple of meetings, but has been up there now and been able to give himself as a regular top 10 driver. It's P6 on the grid, looking to try and capitalise on that. Then it's Mark Kendall and Philip Clark on the fourth row of the grid, followed by Mark Williams and Paul Woodman, who I should mention, I have to thank Adam from Caterham for this, but he's driven up here basically as a last-minute entry. He drove over 5 hours from Bristol to come up here to Croft, and he drove here. He's never seen the circuit or driven it before, and his first experience was in qualifying. So he does get some help and tuition from none other than Tiff Liddell, who's one of his co-presenters and partners in the Love Cars media outfit. Of course, Love Cars being the media sponsor for this year, not just for the Academy, but also for the Academy media car as well. So Paul Woodman is in the Love Cars Academy car, and he will start, as I mentioned, back in 10th position. Joe Priday and Paul Carls will come next on the 6th row, followed by Ian Harris and John Hood. And it's Oliver Hardick and John Vincent, followed by Ian Summers and Ian Bettis to round out the 18-car grid that are here present in Yorkshire this weekend. So we've had some entertaining races. One more is just left in the books before we close up our programme for Croft for this season. Of course, we'll be here back in May, and of course back here this weekend as well at the beginning of September to finish off our programme here in North Yorkshire for our second meeting. And I imagine and that given how entertaining the white group was earlier on, the green group hopefully should be just as fun-filled, given that these rookie drivers do tend to kind of get their elbows out a bit and enjoy themselves on track whenever they go to a new circuit.
Yeah, most definitely. It's another sort of three-way championship fight that's developing, isn't it, between Chiddix, Jones and Newman. So those three have been doing most of the winning. Actually, Mark Jones, of course, second place in the championship, yet to win a race this year. So Mark Jones, perhaps the one that we need to keep an eye out for here as he starts from third on the grid to try and get that victory. Also had a win for Ian Harris back at the sprint at Kerbera. So this has been perhaps in a way the more competitive of the two groups, in that there's been a bigger spread of drivers getting podiums and race victories, but the racing's been really close in both of the Academy groups. And yeah, fingers crossed we get a clean race this time. No appearance of the runyourfleet.com safety car to round out what's been a really terrific weekend of Caterham racing at Croft.
Yeah, can't say fairer than that, and it's now going to be getting in the mix once again as we get set for our final race of the weekend, our final Caterham Canada race. The green group is almost set to go. The green flag will fly at the back, the 5-second ball will go up, and we are underway in racing. Decent start from the front row of the grid from both Freddie Chiddix and from Jeff Newman down towards turn 1. And as they make their way towards Clairvaux for the first time, it will be, when they come back into sight, it's going to be Newman that leads it. Chiddix in second place. Mark Jones is there in third. They all pull their way through once again. A couple of cars are on wider kick-ups and dust, but it looks as though they're all getting through Clairvaux, all through Hawthorne safely. It's like what we like to see. Up through the S's now for the first time, and it is going to be Newman that leads then for Chiddix in second place, with Mark Jones all over him in third. A change on for fourth also as well. And that's between... Looks like, I think, Mark Kendall's got a great start from, was the 8th to 4th row of the grid. He's battling there, I think, with the 15 of Cook. So plenty of good starts here as they turn in through the right hand. That's a 15, yeah, of Cook as they're going through the mix for 4th and 5th position. So a decent clean start for everyone so far, Andy. No shenanigans so far in this opening half lap, but of course they've got to get to the line first so we confirm it's being a clean, tidy first lap in its entirety.
I can't see anyone that's fallen by the wayside this time at least. Everyone did get through that first sequence in one piece, and up towards the right-hander at Barcroft, into the Sunny complex they go. This lead battle then starting to break away, the top 3 in a line then, and then a bit of a gap back to that 4th place battle that was very close to contact as they were heading through Tower Corner, but they just about avoided it. Through into the complex they come then, and the low sun now late in the afternoon glinting off the cars. It is that number 33 car then of Jeff Newman that leads the way as they are round the final couple of corners in the midfield. Rating 4 there is Joe Priday. He had a lap time disallowed, one of a couple of drivers to have lap times disallowed in the qualifying session earlier on for track limits. First lap in the books though, a clean first lap, and an entertaining scrap shaping up here between the top 3. It's Newman from Chiddix from Jones, those top 3, less than a second between them.
And it's fitting that the top 3 in the championship are top 3 in the race already at this early stage. Mark Kendall's made a good start from 7th up to 4th. He's the biggest mover on that first lap already, so up 3 places on the grid. He also managed to get past Cook, Fraser and Theato. That's how he picked off all 3 of those cars on the 4th row to get up there into P4. So a good start from the bright green car, number 35, that's in 4th place with the sort of pinkish red roll bar. Just looking back further back, that's car 5 on screen. That is Philip Clark currently sitting in 10th position. That's where he sits overall in points as well. So he turns his way out. A couple of cars running wide also over the exit of the Tower Corner, just over the grass, a bit kicking up some of the dust, but they all carry on relatively unscathed here as again, we've got Mark Kendall here running strongly in 4th place. I'll just check what his best result of the season's been so far up to this point, which has been, if I look at Mark Kendall's results, he currently comes into the weekend in... Where was he in points? He came in 4th in points. The best result so far has been 4th. So if he finishes here, he'll equal his best finish of the season. He managed to pick it up here. So good start from him to get up in the mix. And being 4th in the championship means that I have got essentially the top 4 contenders in the championship all in the top 4 positions. Not necessarily in championship order, as now up the inside goes Mark Jones to try and pick off 2nd place from Freddie Chiddix. And these 3, particularly Chiddix and Newman, have been back and forth in this battle in the championship all the way through. And Mark Jones has been able to just insert himself in there. We're just keeping it clean, keeping it on the road, taking advantage of when drivers have been either having problems or getting into each other. So Mark Jones has basically been the car that's just taken advantage of any issues between Newman and Chiddix when they've had any dramas. Particularly, I remember back at Knock Hill, he did that to take the race victory when Newman and Chiddix ended up coming off the road. But either way, Mark Jones with the fast lap of the race in the first proper fly, and that shows that, again, he's pretty evenly matched with the front runners, particularly when Fraser and Newman are also on the similar sort of pace as well.
Yeah, definitely, although this scrap for second is in danger of losing them too much time to the leader. In fact, there was a mistake there for Jones, wasn't there, as he came out of the chicane. So that does now mean then that Mark Kendall is up alongside him. The 2 green machines together, Kendall on the outside there. On the inside line, the number 2 car will just about hang on, but the point I was about to make is that Jones and Chiddix were delaying each other to the effect that it was allowing Newman to pull away out in front. But now that Chiddix has been released in 2nd place, he might just be able to chase back down the race leader. 3rd place battle though goes up towards Barcroft. It is still number 2 Mark Jones ahead of number 35 Mark Kendall. What a drive this has been from Kendall though, and now he's got a bit of a slipstream from the number 2 car. Can these 2 work together maybe? Well, to close back in on the top 2, I was going to say actually Kendall's main priority is holding on to 4th place, because the number 15 car of James Cook is right behind and looking to the inside, actually heading towards the complex.
Yeah, stiffing around the rear of the roll cage there for 4th position as they turn into the complex for another time on lap 3. We've still got 15.25 minutes to go, so already coming towards quarter distance. It appears so far the rest of the pack is all filtering in line astern and keeping it nice and tidy, so good clean racing so far from the Academy. I think in the cleanliness of racing stakes compared to white between green, I think the green is certainly winning on this occasion, so to speak. They're keeping nice and tidy on the track at this point in time. Freddie Chiddix sets the new fast lap of the race, 37.504, but he beat essentially what was the fast lap of the race that had just been set by Jeff Newman by a few hundredths of a second, by 600 of a second to be exact. There is number 10, which was Chris Fraser, who is up in 6th position at the moment. As we see Jeff Newman there in car 33. Trying to spread eagle the field here in the lead of this green group race, but trying to close in on the slipstream is Freddie Chiddix. And then we've got Mark Jones there in 3rd place in the almost the kind of new Caterham like factory livery for this season, being the primarily main green colour with those sort of dark sort of charcoal grey panels on the graphics. Really smart looking livery on that car. Chiddix is really giving Newman the hurry up here. These two, of course, battling for the championship at the top of the points, and they're separated by 3 on drop scores. On drop scores, Jeff Newman leads with 100 points compared to Freddie Chiddix on 97. So these two really got to get in amongst each other, and they really got to make sure ultimately that it's an obvious thing to say, but one's got to finish ahead of the other to try and make sure they can keep on taking points away. Particularly, Chiddix has to get ahead of Newman to try and see if he can close in and even that gap up a little bit more, even though it's quite a fine margin. There's not many points that you lose by going between first to second and third again. He's looking to the outside into the complex with Jones closing in again, but it's what we love to see in a championship. The 3 main contenders at the front, slogging it out at the front, battling together. This is what we like to see in a proper championship fight towards the head of the field.
Yeah, and although there's not much of a points difference between finishing first, second or third in a race, when the points are as tight as they are, at this late stage in the season especially, every single one of those points matters. So if you can beat your rival by even just 1 position in this race, it could be the position that ultimately gives you the championship crown come the end of the season. Wide run there from Newman. He would just outbraked himself a bit into Clervaux, and so Freddie Chiddix almost got a chance to get up the inside into Hawthorne Corner, but these 3 latch together now as they come through the chicane. They're starting to drop the 4th place man Kendall slightly. Now, what effect does the slipstream have? Is it going to give Freddie Chiddix a chance to get this lead back? Remember, he started on pole ahead of Jeff Newman. Newman does not want to give him first place back though, defends the inside towards Tower. To the outside goes Chiddix, and of course then the danger is that he leaves the door open for Mark Jones behind him. That didn't quite happen, but Mark was sniffing around on the inside line there as they went into the right-hander at the end of the back straight, and all 3 of them fanning out almost side by side towards the Jim Clark S's.
Well, that's never advisable, particularly in your first season of the race, and that should be like a managed thing. You do not go 3 abreast in Jim Clark S's because it never usually ends well, but they all seem to have got through unscathed in the order they've come through, which is still Newman from Chiddix and then from Jones. Still Mark Kendall 4th, James Cook in 5th, and it's Fraser, the 7th place car of Williams, that's Williams, that being Mark Williams. And we have Paul Woodward up to 8th. He started 10th. Theo Theart has dropped back from 6th on the greens down to 9th. And it's in the top 10 is Philip Clark there in car 5. So he's in the mid-pack as well. In through the complex once again. This is to end lap 5. And still Newman, Chiddix, Jones, but now closing in as a result of their sort of holding each other up at this point is Mark Jones and James Cook. So it is now a 5-car scrap for the podium and for the win. A good run off of the hairpin now for Mark Jones. He will close it in the slipstream behind Freddie Chiddix as Jeff Newman gets a little bit of respite at the front. Now looking there at Chiddix versus Jones, down towards Clervaux. Not quite close enough for Jones as he turns in through the right-hander. And wide again for Jeff Newman for the 2nd lap in succession. So either he prefers that line, or just he's going too deep in there, trying to push too hard. But either way, for the 2nd or 3rd lap in a row, he will exit the S's with Chiddix and co. right on his roll cage down the back straight towards Tower.
It's almost like he's trying to avoid that bump on the apex, but it's clearly not as quick a line through there as aiming for the curb on the inside and sending it. Speaking of sending it, could that be what Chiddix is about to do around the outside at Tower? No, for the 2nd lap in a row, he cuts back to the late apex, tries to get the speed off the corner, and this time I think he has generated an overlap against Newman. Jones has a run on both of them. It's going to be at least side by side into the S's. Who comes out the other side on top? We have had the lead change, and in fact into 2nd goes Jones as well. So that's Chiddix the leader, Jones 2nd, Jeff Newman goes from 1st to 3rd. All because he just had that defensive line into Tower. It cost him momentum on the exit, and then he was just a sitting duck on that run towards the Jim Clark S's, which in these cars should be easy flat as long as you're not running through there side by side. So Chiddix then with some work to do now, having started on pole, worked this way. Sorry, Newman, excuse me, started 2nd, got into the lead, and now he's down to 3rd. It is Chiddix who's got the advantage, and Jones, looking for that first victory of the season, remember, is right on his tail now as they head towards the hairpin.
Yeah, and if Chiddix can manage it, it will be his 3rd win of the season. He took victory in the 2nd race at Knockhill, and then he won the race at Brand, so it'll be his 3rd win of the season. But as you say, you're absolutely right. The previous best result for Jones has been a 2nd place, and that was in the 2nd race at Knockhill, which Chiddix also won. So some side-by-side battles further back as well, but I think Theo Theart is getting stuck in there as well, amongst others. He's battling away with car 5. That's over 9th and 10th place. That's Philip Clark as they turn their way through. Big wiggle there as they come. That was, I think that was Chris Fraser in car number 10. And here we look backwards. I think that's to Theo Theart. There he is. Fantastic name, Theo Theart. Also, he's got, I don't think named Tiger or something. He's got some tiger stripes or a tiger-themed livery on that car. So, specs. What I like about this championship in some cases, particularly with the Academy guys, is they let the cars kind of speak their own personality in terms of the liveries and stuff. It's fantastic to see that, where you get some different schemes and liveries. And generally, rather sometimes prefer just to have the standard either like plain silver or plain steel coloured car with different coloured noses or roll cages. But some drivers go all out with the livery. I mean, the Love Cars livery on the Paul Woodman car looks pretty decent in itself. So they redesigned that a couple of times. I remember their particular video on revealing that car. They changed the design 2 or 3 times to incorporate a couple of different logos at the last minute. So it's a great looking cars in the field, and it certainly helps to the image when these guys are battling on track, particularly as the leaders are, as they come through sunny in and sunny out, with Chiddick still with Jones on his tail and Jeff Newman keeping a watching brief in third.
Yeah, blue and day-glow yellow seems to be a popular Caterham colour, doesn't it? And that's certainly the case for our third place man at the moment, Jeff Newman even, who is sort of trying to regroup a bit here now. I think we are past half race distance, 8 3/4 minutes to go. And he's thinking to himself, hang on a minute, I was leading a few laps ago, I was pulling away from the rest of the pack, and now I've got it all to do again in third place. Across the line they go. Jones is close enough to Chiddick's here to have a go down the pit straight, should he wish to. He's getting a slipstream actually, but then he's also under pressure from third place man Newman.
I think Chiddick might have missed a shift because he's not only lost Jones, he's also lost Newman as well. So he's dropped from first to third, so I think he's possibly missed a gear. And because of that, it's cost him momentum down the pit straight. So Jones now leads the way with Newman in second place. But Chiddick's just, I saw him going slow on the straight. It has to have been a misshift to try and get up the gear. So it's easier done than you might think in these cars because they've got quite a close gearbox. So when you try to go through the gears, when you try to shift, it can be difficult to try and get the gear in. Sometimes it slips out your hand and doesn't go in properly, and that can kill your momentum and kill the speed down the straight. What that's also does, not only has it let Mark Jones and Jeff Newman through, but it's put Chiddick under pressure now from fourth place man Mark Kendall, because he's now in there too, of course. And then remember, this is the top 4 in the championship, not exactly in this order, the top 4 in the championship, in the top 4 places all together in this lead pack, and certainly all together as they come back through the Jim Clark S's once more. So at the moment Jones leads, but that sharp resurgent Jeff Newman, who was back in third at one point, he's back on the tail to get back into the lead with still 7.5 minutes to go.
Yep, through sunny they go once again, then getting into the final third of the race, and Jones, can he do it? Can he get this victory? Don't count out Kendall either. He's closed back in again over the last lap or so with 1 or 2 mistakes and side-by-side moments coming from the leading trio. That fourth place green car is with them. And actually, he's bringing friends, isn't he? Because he's got Cook and Fraser, 5th and 6th. Only a couple of car lengths behind him. There they go. Look through the complex of corners. The number 10 car there of Chris Fraser, who started the race actually in 5th place. So he'll be looking to try and at least get back to where he started before the race is over. Out of the hairpin they go then, across the start-finish line. Mark Jones, the leader this time, from Newman in second, Chiddick's in third, Kendall fourth, then the rest of them chasing down behind. James Cook there in 5th place, Fraser 6th. That is your lead group as they head through Clervaux once again. 6 minutes and 40 remaining in the race. And Jones is watching in his mirrors now and just hoping and praying that they start tripping over each other behind, because if they don't, he's going to be under threat again here down the back straight. Chiddick is close enough to get a bit of a slipstream. He's closing all the time on Mark Jones. Jones is going to have to defend the inside line down towards Tower Corner this time. The race leaders then almost together, but then a big dive there in third place from Chiddick, who tries to get past both of them. That was never, ever going to work. He bails out of the move for the lead and comes out of the corner level then for second place, though with Newman, that was bold stuff on the brakes there.
Yeah, ambitious stuff from Freddie as he tries to get himself back into the lead of this race again, but he's all on the tail. And watch for Mark Kendall, of course, in car 35, the sort of brighter green car that's back behind him as well. There was a bit of a love tap through Barker, which you do not do at high speed through there for Jeff Newman, so he just holds on to currently the lead at the moment. Mark Jones putting in a fantastic effort to hold on to this position. Now, Jeff Newman has to look behind him. There's a slippery surface flag there. I suspect that's either just for debris out on the track rather than any fluid or not, but there's a slippery, a yellow and red slippery surface flag that's gone out, so be careful to see if that's just purely just for debris that's on the track. I think it might be. Around the outside looks Chiddick, has a look up the inside, but not quite close enough. And again, you're absolutely right about 5th and 6th. Look at both James Cook and Fraser as well in the mix as well. Chris Fraser and James Cook are in there too. That made it a 6-car train for the lead. Mark Jones at the head of it, and there is no guarantee which of these 6 are going to finish where and in what order, because they come down the pit straight with 5.25 minutes to go. There is a prospect that literally anything could happen between these guys. It could really be that close.
it only takes one side-by-side moment or one mistake from one of the leaders, and it will just bottle that whole group up, won't it? And yeah, it could be sitting pretty if you're a bit further down the order. Almost contact there between Chiddix and Newman going through Hawthorne, as Chiddix took a bit more speed into the right-hander than the 33 car ahead. Sort of spurring him on a bit here, though, because you can see that Mark Jones is further ahead of them this time as they go down the back straight. That gap shrinks a little bit with the slipstream. In fact, it shrinks a lot because really late on the brakes is Newman. He tries to throw it up the inside of Jones, who just about outbrakes him. Newman runs a bit wide, though. They've both gone out wide, and that gives Chiddix a run now coming out of the turn. So Jones ran wide from the lead. Newman ran wide in second. Chiddix, I think, is already into P2 and challenging for the lead as they go towards the top of the circuit. In fact, I think he's got through, hasn't he? So that looks like Mark Jones might have lost the lead there. Yes, he has. So that is Chiddix back in front because the two in front outbraked each other going into the tower corner.
So 4.25 minutes to go then. Chiddix back in the lead now. And Mark Jones, of course, trying to hold on to that one to get his first win. He's going to have to get back around Chiddix to do that. But now, ironically, Newman and Kendall are going to look behind him and thinking, hold on a minute, where have you two come from? Because they've managed to close in. And that's the thing about Caterham racing in particular, where you've got a pack of cars in front. But then what you do have is then, as they start to close up and battle amongst each other, it brings cars behind that are working together back into the mix. And so the lead group gets bigger and bigger. I've seen in one Caterham race, the Silvers, I saw literally, I think, on a 32-car grid, and about 29 of them were in the lead group together. It was one of the most incredible Caterham races I'd seen because it was that close between all the cars at a circuit that fits it. Now, car 15, which is Cook, has got damage to the front. His front number plate's hanging off, and I think also there's a bit of bump to his nose as well. So we'll see if that affects any aerodynamics at all or any front-end grip. Through the right-hander they go. So it's still Chiddix from Jones, then it's still third place for 33 of Jeff Newman. Kendall there in fourth place from Cook and Fraser, rounding out the top six. And it's Woodman up to seventh place past Mark Williams. Then it's Diato and Clark rounding out the top 10. And now as they come down the back straight, it's Kendall's chance to have an attack. He's been biding his time, being patient here in this race so far, but now finally Kendall has a chance to attack Jeff Newman here down towards the right-hander. Again, Mark Jones is having a look, possibly to make a move on Chiddix. Round the outside looks Kendall, try and get that undercut on Jeff Newman. Also in there now, again, is James Cook. Watch for him in car 15. He might get his elbows out and get involved here from 5th to 31 move if he can play it safe. Up through the left-hander and the right of Jim Clark S's. Newman stays in front, still keeping Kendall and Cook at bay at this point in time. But now with only 2.75 minutes to go, he gets to that point of the race where essentially drivers start to think, if I've got to make this move, I've got to do it now, otherwise I never will. So I don't want to use the word, but a bit of desperation starts to set in, thinking, if I don't make this move, I'm going to lose points. So do I try and make a bit of a risk here at this point of the championship, or do I try and sit back, bank the points, and just try and hope that I get some better results later on? It's a tricky part of the race, and a tricky decision to make.
Well, yeah, especially if you're Kendall, Cook or Fraser, because you're getting bottled up now behind a very defensive Newman, and it's really allowed the top two to pull away. That gap between second and third has shot out on this lap because the 33 car of Newman has just been driving around the inside edge of the circuit almost, trying to keep them behind, and he's really going to have to go defensive now down to Clairvaux because Kendall comes to the outside of him going down towards that first corner, onto the penultimate lap of the race then. The top two really distancing themselves now by over 2 seconds from this almighty battle pack for third, and that still somehow is Newman ahead, despite the run there that Kendall had down the pit straight. He couldn't force the issue around the outside, and maybe didn't want to because he knew how close Cook and Fraser were. If you go for a move around the outside at Clairvaux and it doesn't work, you're very likely to lose more than one place. So sensible stuff maybe there from Kendall. He's now going to try and regroup, have another go down into Tower Corner, but again Newman defends to the inside line, Kendall to the outside, Cook goes to the inside of both of them. 3 into 1 will not go at Tower Corner, surely. It looks as though maybe Cook is going to get past at least one of them. It's Newman that comes out the other side still in third, but only just from a very, very racy James Cook.
Fantastic stuff, and James Cook might not be necessarily in the championship fight, but he doesn't care at this point in time. He wants to get a strong result, and one of his best results of the season. He came into the weekend, I think, pretty much 5th in points on drop scores. James Cook, his 5th, his best result of the year has been a 4th place. So if he can get himself onto the podium, he would certainly enjoy that very much as they come up through the right-hand. The top two are away and gone. James Cook is back in 5th now. So they're going to come on to the last lap of not just the race, but the entire weekend here at Croft. They're turning up through the complex once again for the second to last time. Still Chiddix in command with Jones in giving hot pursuit side by side again. This time Kenny looks a bit, he had to really stand on the ankles to avoid any contact with Jeff Newman. He just simply cut off any avenue to get through on the exit. Here comes Cook and also Fraser. Looks around the outside, is Mark Kenny. Think, right, inside's cut off, I'll try the outside this time. Doesn't work that time, but he gets a great run off the corner. Now we'll be side by side down towards Clairvaux for the final time. onto the last lap. They go with the back roughly 15 seconds to go, side by side for that third place battle. Kendall had his nose just in front by 15,000ths of a second, down towards Clairvaux. Kendall has to sit back in fourth position. Cook is in there now. Back through towards Hawthorns. He's nibbling at the rear wing. He's close as he has ever been. As Chidix has pulled away from Cook, but it's his battle for third as they go on to the last lap is well the action is. It's 4 for them all together. I can't look at Tower Bend. This is going to be quite incredible down here. It could be 4 abreast when they get to the apex.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet against it, but again, look, the defensive line taken by Newman is just not allowing them through. Exemplary defensive driving this from our third place man. Out through the right hander they go. Is there a gap on the outside? There's a bit of wheel banging. Oh, and it ends in contact. Unfortunately, 2 of them go off. That is Kendall and Cook, I think, isn't it? Kendall back into the road, pointing the wrong way, coming out of Tower Corner. He tried to go around the outside of Newman. There was a bit of wheel banging that unsettled Kendall's car, and unfortunately, James Cook, nowhere he could go. He was collected in the left-hand side by the spinning Kendall. What a shame that had to end in contact there, because it had been a terrific scrap up until that point, and unfortunately that will now definitely affect some of our podium finishes. Well, certainly the last step of the podium anyway. Yeah,
that was a shame. It was shaping up to be a brilliant wheel-to-wheel fight for the final podium spot, but it looks as though it's going to be essentially guaranteed in many cases too. We think, well, Kendall, because Newman was involved in that. Kendall, I think, has stayed in third place. He has, but up to the checkered flag is going to come our winner once again for the 3rd time this season. Freddie Chidix will head to the checkered flag, and he picks up victory in the Love Cars Caterham Academy Green Group. Chidix wins, with Jones in 2nd place. It's Mark Kendall, I think he's going to cross it. No, it is Jeff Newman in 3rd place. Mark Kendall did drop. Yes, he would have that spin, of course. He was involved with Cook just then. I should have remembered that while I'm watching it happen. So Newman gets 3rd. It's Fraser in 4th position. He benefits from all of that, picking his way through the incident. It's then 5th place for James Cook, 6th for Mark Kendall after he was so close to getting a podium place. 7th for Paul Woodward. He had a quiet race up into P7 ahead of Williams was 6th, so Mark Williams was 6th, Woodman 7th, and Kendall doesn't make it to the flag yet. He's come across he hasn't made it to the flag yet, so either he's still struggling, or is this him coming through the complex now? No, it's not. So Mark Kendall, I think, possibly stopped somewhere, and he might not even make it to the flag, sadly, so that contact might have been a bit more substantial than we first realised when he collided with James Cook. So it's Williams 6th, Woodman 7th, Clark 8th, Castle 9th, and Friday rounding out the top 10. Theo Theato was 11th. It's then 12th for Ian Harris. And still Cardiff comes through in 13th place. And I think, Mark Kendall sadly has stopped. And that is, I think, just on the... Is that on the exit of Jim Clark S's, I think? Yes, it is. Yes, exit Jim Clark S's. I can see it outside the commentary box window. So, sadly, unfortunately, and that wasn't the way that Mark Kendall wants to end his weekend or his race. And unfortunately, that will have to be racked up as a DNF. He'll have to use that as a drop score.
Yeah, absolutely. Not the way anyone wanted to end the weekend, really. That had been a brilliant race. One of the best races of the day, really. And it just... that defensive drive from Newman, it was a really good defensive drive, but you sensed that it was always going to end... always had the potential anyway to end in contact, because those behind were just getting more and more frustrated with the fact that they couldn't get past him, but he didn't really do anything wrong. He was just putting his car in all the right places, and it led inadvertently to that last lap shunt. But yeah, brilliant drive that from Chidix. Jones again, 1 position shy of getting that first victory of the season, despite having led at a couple of different points in that race. But the Caterham Academy Green Group once again putting on a fantastic show, as really have all the championships here this weekend. It's been a brilliant weekend of racing.
Really has. Fantastic stuff from all of the Caterham championships here that's been this weekend, as well as Fun Cup and City Car Cup. We'll give them a proper thank you in a minute. Here's the provisional result from the final race of the weekend. Freddie Chidix takes the victory in the green group for the Love Cars Caterham Academy. It's Mark Jones who takes 2nd. Jeff Newman survives the last lap incident to take 3rd. Chris Fraser pops up to 4th as a result of it. James Cook survives to 5th. Mark Williams takes 6th. And it's Paul Woodman, Philip Clark, Paul Carston, Joe Priday, with Theo Theato, Ian Harris, Oliver Hardick, John Hood, John Vincent, Ian Bettis, and Ian Summers rounding out the 17 finishes. Mark Kendall, sadly, as we saw, did not make it to the flag. And Jeff Newman also takes the fastest lap of the race, which would be a bonus point as well. And that, Andy McKeon, rounds up what's been, I think, a pretty mega little weekend here in North Yorkshire in the beginning of September in this late summer, early autumn sunshine. It's been a wonderful 2 days' worth of racing, and we've both been here to see it. And I think even yesterday's Fun Cup race was a great conclusion to yesterday's racing. But yeah, all 3 paddocks, Fun Cup, Caterham Motorsport, and Nankang Tyre City Car Cup. Big thank you to them, because of course they've provided endless and superb racing entertainment, as they always tend to do at this club level. brilliant weekend. Next overall Caterham package racing will be at Stetterson. That's a weekend after that in October, as they come towards the end of the Academy Championship and the closing stages of Road Sport 270, 310 and the Caterham 7 UK Championship as well. And to finally round off, for myself, Scott Woodward, and Andy McEwen from JP Tennis yesterday, and all of us here at Croft, thank you ever so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time for more live action from the British Racing and Sports Car Club in a few weeks' time at Donington Park. But until then, take care and bye for now, and stay safe.